big fan of your book. I took it on vacation, read it in one day. When you were writing the book and at Elite 11 camp, all that kind of stuff, what were some of your favorite highlights from your research, just the whole process of writing that book?
There's like a big element of discovery. Like there's a lot of layers to it. When you think about, okay, like there's some random things. I go down to SMU because I'm going to go sit down with Hal Mummy, and I'm sitting with him and June Jones. You have these two completely outside the box, like as crazy as Mike Leach is, June Jones is like 4 different levels of crazy than him.
Yeah.
And so you start hearing their stories, and June Jones, like, I wasn't going there to talk about brain typing. I didn't know that was on the radar, and all of a sudden he's talking about that and the levels he's into brain typing. Whether you believe in that stuff or not, I'm not sure I believe in it, but it was.
But he was very passionate about it.
Very passionate, and that's you just hit on a great word for it. And the people who are really passionate about it. All these private quarterback coaches, and some I think are skeptical of how authentic they really are, especially guys who are in the more established college football programs. But I think when you see how they work with the kids and what they end up doing, it's interesting to see how they get kids to buy in and how they manage it. I'm not saying, like different people are probably better for, not one size fits all. Like Tom House was a fascinating guy. Like I grew up liking baseball, but I'm pretty far removed from it, and I would sit in with Tom House for the whole day as he would kind of give his, what if you call it a lecture, or however it was. But these are fascinating guys because they are so consumed by like what you would think is the minutiae, the details. And I just had a blast working on the book, and then the challenge was trying to put it all together in a narrative. I think some people were like, feedback on that book's been interesting because some people I think they wanted it to be more about one character. And you had these guys, whether it's Trent Dilfer or Tom House or George Whitfield, or Jeff Tedford. They're all kind of different. They're all kind of one degree of separation.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't really suspect until I really got in the weeds of it.
Well, there's some meteor stuff, but David Blough, the quarterback who's here today,
Yeah.
that's about him sitting out in the Elite 11 camp, right?
Yeah.
What did you see from him in that camp that you mentioned in the book? But then talk about how he's grown, and now he's here at Media Day here at the Big Ten, and he's poised for a big season at Purdue.
Yeah, and he's the big speaker, today at the luncheon, which is a great honor for him. He's a terrific kid, and when I was around him in Elite 11, he was pretty talented. You didn't know, he's not 6'4", he's not the prototype. He had some height, but not a ton of it. But he's a kid who does mission work to South Africa. He's been there several times. I remember I talked to Aaron Rodgers about, like, usually if somebody says they get a chance to meet somebody famous or work with them, it's like, he's like, yeah, that really helped. And I was like, what'd you learn? And it'll always be some really generic thing like be the best you can be, or some cliche thing. And I said, what'd you learn from Aaron? He had a really specific, detailed thing about, hey, even if you routes on air, you take the rep seriously. It's like basically you go through the motions like it's a real rep, and some of the detail stuff. And he took it to heart. And I go through, like, sometimes when you're talking to 16, 17-year-old kids, especially when they're dealing with a lot of reporters.
They're kids, right?
They're kids, and they can just kind of go through the motions, or they just, their perspective is really limited. And David was a pretty thoughtful kid. Now, some of the other kids that, that I talked to for the book, Josh Rosen was kind of a loose cannon, but he was really interesting. But other ones, it was like, they're just, they're still kids. And so David was a kid I always keep an eye on what Purdue's doing. I just kind of root for him because I know, what he's like and what he's about. And his story was a cool story. I don't know if he'll ever be an NFL quarterback or what he's going to do with it, but it's been very interesting to watch his kind of rise and what he's doing. Not just as a quarterback, but using that platform. He's kind of what I think a lot of people would hope how some of these kids would handle it, and so I think that's a credit to him and certainly to his mom, his family.
Perfect. Now, sticking with Purdue, this is the second or third coach that David's had. Was Hazel his first coach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, second coach, Brohm is known for his offense. What do you think Purdue's capable of in, I guess, an adjustment year, we're going to call it?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think Brohm's a great offensive coach. You'd hear his name when you talk to other football coaches who impresses you, and his name comes up. I think they have it's going to be an uphill climb to get to 6 wins to get to the postseason, but I do think they'll be better just because Brohm and his staff know exactly what he wants, have an identity. I think he's really, really smart with quarterbacks. This is, I think, the 3rd offensive coordinator he's had in 3 years for David, so that's going to be an adjustment. He's a bright kid. I think there's some challenges with him because he's not 6'3", 6'4", so I think just in terms of he's maybe 6 feet, maybe 6'1". He doesn't always throw over the top, so I think there's some challenges they're going to have to work around. But to me, the West is wide open in the Big Ten. Who knows? I could see them surprising some people, but I don't know if I can see them surprising people enough to get to 6 wins.
All right, so between your work with Fox Sports this season and Sports Illustrated, what are some games or what are some storylines that you're really excited about watching unfold?
Well, I want to see how Penn State does coming off of winning the Big Ten title last year. I was up there in the spring, was really impressed by the offensive talent there. I think Joe Moorhead, the offense coordinator, is ready to be a head coach at a bigger level. I don't know if they got personnel-wise good enough to stay on top of Michigan and Ohio State, but I think they have a chance just because they're going to be so good on offense. And I want to say
Barkley's poised for a monster.
Special. He is special. It's like I hate to say it like this when you see the comparisons to Ezekiel Elliott. I think on the field they're true, but there's no character flags with this kid. I mean, he's just an awesome kid, and you talk to people close to him and they say it. Week 3, it's not our crews doing it, but I want to see what happens when Texas plays USC. I mean, Tom Herman is 6-0 when he's faced ranked opponents. USC is going to be coming off of a game against the most physical team in the Pac-12, Stanford. And USC's dealing with a lot of expectations, and that program hasn't done so well when they've dealt with expectations in recent history.